Reported speech. It's used in news, speeches, and in stories. It's also often used in everyday conversation, which means it's important to learn how to use it correctly. Direct speech is when the exact words of the speaker are repeated. Here's an example. "I am going to drive to work," he said. We can recognize direct speech because quotation marks, often called speech marks, are used. Reported speech, also known as indirect speech, expresses the meaning of what was said, but does not repeat the exact words of the speaker. For example, he said that he was going to drive to work. In this video, we're going to look at how we get from this to this. We're going to use this direct speech to create a reported speech sentence. "I am worried about my test tomorrow," Bianca said. Here are 4 steps we're going to follow when we form sentences that include reported speech. Step 1. We need to choose a reporting verb to use. Here are the 2 most common: say and tell. These 2 reporting verbs have a slightly different structure to how they're used. For our first example, we'll choose say. The past form of the reporting verb is often used because when we report speech, we're talking about something that was said in the past. That means in our sentence, we'll use the word said. The present or future forms of a reporting verb can also be used depending on the context. We'll have a look at this later in the video. We start our reported speech with the speaker, which in this case is Bianca. Bianca said. Next, we can choose to use the word that if we like. I'm going to put it in brackets so we can see the sentence with it and without it. Bianca said, or Bianca said that. Step 2. Backshift tense. Backshift means to move the verb tense back in time 1 tense. We often do this in reported speech to create a sense of distance from when it was originally spoken. This chart shows us how the tenses change. For example, we can see that present simple verbs are typically changed to past simple, and present continuous verbs are often changed to past continuous. It's important to remember that backshifting is not a firm rule that we must always follow. We use it to help clarify things, but there are times we don't need to backshift. We'll look at those later in the lesson. Present simple is used in this direct speech. Bianca said, "I am worried." Here you can see that we change present simple to past simple. That means is will need to be changed to was. She was worried. Let's look at our sentence so far. We have our reporting verb, said, and we know we will backshift from present simple to past simple. Step 3. Check the perspective. When changing direct speech to reported speech, we need to consider who the speaker was and who they were talking about. This helps us decide which pronouns to use. In this case, the speaker, Bianca, is talking about herself. Bianca used the pronouns I and my. We'll need to change those to third-person pronouns. Instead of I, we'll use she. And instead of the possessive pronoun my, we'll need her. Bianca said she was worried about her test. We have our reporting verb in past form, said. We have backshifted our tense by using was worried. And we have considered the perspective by using the pronouns she and her. The last step on our checklist is place and time. We'll need to adjust some words that refer to place and time to match the perspective of the person reporting. In our direct speech, there is no place mentioned, but there is time, tomorrow. Words related to time and place change because we are moving from the place and the moment the speech was originally said to a different place and to a different point in time. For this reason, we don't say tomorrow, we say the next day or the following day. Our sentence is, Bianca said she was worried about her test the next day. Here are some other time and place words and phrases that change in reported speech. Before we move on to another example, let's take a moment to dive a little more deeply into the second step. Backshift the verb tense. Earlier in the lesson, I mentioned that we don't always need to backshift. You might have noticed on this list from earlier that if past perfect or past perfect continuous tense is used in the direct speech, the tense doesn't change. That is because there is no further tense to backshift to. There are, however, some other occasions where we don't change the tense. We don't always backshift the verb tense if the action or state described is still true, ongoing, or relevant at the time of reporting. For example, I go to the gym every day, Sarah said. In this direct speech, present simple tense is used. But we don't backshift because Sarah's statement is still true in the present. It's something she does regularly. Our reported speech could be, Sarah said she goes to the gym every day. Notice we didn't backshift to past simple. Here's another example. I am hungry, Rick said. We could choose to backshift from present simple to past simple and report Rick's speech like this. Rick said he was hungry. Or we could choose not to backshift like this. Rick said he is hungry. Here we have kept the tense the same. So, what's the difference between these two? Well, here it sounds like we might be reporting what Rick said yesterday, or even before that, meaning that Rick might not still be hungry now. Here, we're reporting Rick's speech on the same day, when it was still true. Rick is still hungry. This is important to consider when we are referring to emotions. Here's an example. We would report the speech like this. She said she loves her mother. If we did backshift and said, she said she loved her mother, it makes it sound as though she doesn't love her anymore. We also don't backshift if our reporting verb is in present tense. If the reported speech is still relevant to the present moment, the reporting verb can be used in the present tense. Let's take this as an example. I believe I am the best person for the job, said Georgia. If this is an ongoing belief or opinion, we might choose to use a reporting verb in present tense. Georgia believes. Here we've used the present form believes instead of the past tense, Georgia believed. We don't backshift the tense when the reporting verb is in the present tense. So to finish this sentence, we would say, Georgia believes she is the best person for the job. Present tense reporting verb, don't backshift. Now let's have another go at changing direct speech to reported speech. This time, we'll use the reporting verb tell. The structure is a little different when we use tell. Because tell is a transitive verb, it needs a direct object to indicate who is being told. To help understand this, let's go back to our first reported speech sentence where we used said. If we were to use tell, which in past tense is told, we would need to include a direct object. We could say, Bianca told me she was worried. Me is the direct object. Or perhaps she didn't tell me. Perhaps she told Liam. Or perhaps she told her parents. Tell needs a direct object. Say doesn't. Okay, back to our second example. Here's our direct speech. You both did a good job with your homework, Greg said to the kids. Our first step to form reported speech is to choose a reporting verb. We've already chosen to use tell. Tell is often used when reporting speech directed at someone, as is the case in this example. We'll use the past tense told because we're reporting something that was said in the past. Greg told. Now, as we've looked at, told needs a direct object. Who did Greg tell? The kids. Greg told the kids. Now we can move on to step 2, backshift the tense. Here is the backshift chart. The direct speech is in past simple, did a good job, so we'll backshift to past perfect. Instead of did a good job, we'll say had done a good job. Next, we check the perspective by considering who the speaker was and who they were talking about. Our speaker is Greg, and he is talking directly to the kids, so he uses the pronouns you and your. In the reported speech, we'll change you to they because the perspective has changed. Greg is no longer speaking directly to the kids. We'll need to change your to their. Greg told the kids they had done a good job with their homework. Step 4 is to adjust words that refer to place and time. No place or time words are used. Our reported speech sentence is finished. Let's go through another example. You are making me wait here too long, Finn said. Step 1. Choose reporting verb. This time I'm going to use a different reporting verb, complain. Complain is used when someone expresses dissatisfaction or annoyance about something. Finn complained. Second step. Backshift the verb tense. The direct speech verb tense is present continuous, which backshifts to past continuous. We backshift to this tense to create a sense of distance from when Finn said this. Are making will change to was making. The third step is to check the perspective. The speaker is Finn. He uses the pronoun you. So let's imagine he is talking directly to me. I made him wait too long. I'm going to need to change you to I. He also uses the pronoun me, which I will need to change to him. Finn complained that I was making him wait. Finally, we need to adjust words that refer to place and time. No time is referred to, but place is. Finn used the word here. We will change here to there because the perspective has changed. Here refers to Finn's location, while there indicates a more distant or referenced place. Finn complained that I was making him wait there too long. For our fourth example, we'll work with direct speech that uses future tense. Here it is. I will help you with your homework, Jane said to Brad. First, we choose our reporting verb. I'm going to use tell again. Jane told. Now remember that tell takes a direct object. Who did Jane tell? Brad. Jane told Brad. Next, we backshift the verb tense. Here's our chart. Instead of will, we need would. Now we consider perspective. Jane told Brad she would help him with his homework. Now, there is no place and time that needs adjusting, so our reported speech is finished. So far we've looked at how to report statements. Now we'll move on to how we report questions. To report questions, we use the reporting verb ask, followed by the person being asked. For example, she asked him. She asked her friend. She asked me. When we report questions, we change the question structure to a statement structure. For example, let's imagine we are reporting this question. Why did you come home early? It would sound like this. She asked me why I came home early. We kept the word why from the direct speech. We use the same question word from the direct speech, whether it's who, what, when, where, why, or how, in the reported speech. If no question word is used, and is instead a yes-no question, we use the word if to introduce the question. Take this as an example. Martha to Peter. Do you live in Berlin? We would say, Martha asked Peter if he lived in Berlin. Here are a couple of examples for you to practice. Change them into reported speech following the steps you've learned. Remember these steps, and remember that we backshift when it helps to make things clear. Sometimes it doesn't, especially when the past simple tense has been used. I'd love to see your work in the comments below, and keep in mind that there will be more than one correct answer for each. Reported speech conveys the meaning of what was said, but the exact wording varies. EasyTeaching.net